Frankly, it's hilarious to see Western military analysts bending over backwards to criticize our domestic developments. From NATO member countries, one can hear not the most flattering reviews about our military equipment. They claim our technologies are lagging, our radars and materials are of poor quality. But for the last 6 years, the Russian Federation has convincingly demonstrated the superior qualities of our weapons in Syria, demonstrating its capabilities and technical advantages to the world. Not so long ago, Russian pilots had the opportunity to test new technology under combat conditions to really assess them. Our newest Su-57 fifth-generation fighters managed to fly undetected over enemy territory littered with American Patriot PAC-3 systems. The combat sorties of our VKS were performed at the highest level, rattling the nerves of our Western colleagues. Their air defense systems didn't even notice our fighters nearby. Our Su-57s were simply invisible to them. The West is bewildered as to how this could ever happen, and the previously mentioned experts from the Western Hemisphere of the globe have now taken a vow of silence. In other words, they've simply shut up. These poor guys still can't gather themselves to answer why their highly advanced electronics couldn't see our plane, which, according to them, is of low quality. They deemed it ineffectual, but here's the kicker. It turns out the Russian Su-57s are truly effective and invisible to enemy radars. But let's take things in order. Middle Eastern media are ceaselessly reporting that 2 new Russian Su-57 fighters have appeared in Syria at the Khmeim Air Base, to be specific. They managed to fly over U.S. military air bases in northern Iraq unnoticed. Think about it. This wasn't a flight over some peaceful region. Some obscure part of the planet, potentially over the hotspot itself, where if there's even the slightest movement, they shoot from all directions to kill. Many Middle Eastern outlets are now openly ridiculing the Americans, referring to the event as a slap from the Russians. The Pentagon representatives initially tried to remain silent, hoping the news would die down, but they miscalculated. The news circulated from one media house to another. To the military leadership, the USA was left with no option but to lie. They claimed the whole story was false, stating that the Russian fighters didn't fly by themselves, but were transported on board the An. However, the journalists quickly exposed the U.S. Department of Defense's lies. Middle Eastern media insist that the Russian warplanes did fly by themselves and weren't transported on board the An-124, as the Pentagon claimed, cite alternative information sources. They couldn't enter either, as Istanbul doesn't allow the appearance of Russian warplanes in its airspace. In relation to this, the media concludes that to reach the Khmeim Air Base, Russian fighters could only exclusively through Iraqi airspace, tracking over its northern part, subsequently entering Syrian airspace directly over American military installations. Taking into account the probable route of Russian fighters, Iraq, and 3 U.S. military bases in Syrian territory. Until recently, the USA mocked the Russian Su-57, affirming that it couldn't claim the title stealth. However, in light of the fact that the Russian fighters unimpededly crossed several thousand kilometers directly over American military bases in Iraq and Syria, it becomes absolutely clear that we're dealing with the stealth aircraft which successfully made a pass.